Welcome to the Exploring Unschooling podcast. I'm Pamela Riccia, unschooling mom and author, bringing you interviews, information, and inspiration about unschooling and living joyfully with your family. You can find the episode show notes, your free Exploring Unschooling ebook, and lots more information at livingjoyfully.ca. And here's the show. Hello everyone, I'm Pamela Riccia, and this is episode number 4 of the podcast, and it's the 27th of January 2016 as I record this. In this episode, Ohman, Anna Brown, and I answer your questions about unschooling. I'm planning to do a Q&A episode once a month, or when we've received enough questions. For this first month, I've gathered the questions that people shared in the survey I sent out to my list, asking them about the kinds of content they'd like to see in this podcast. So for next month's episode, if you have any questions you'd like us to chat about, please take a moment to go to livingjoyfully.ca/podcast and submit a question. Before we get started, a quick update on life around here. Last week I participated in episode number 47 of the online show For the Love of Learning. I had a great time talking about attachment parenting and unschooling with host Lainey Liberty and the other 2 guests, Naomi Aldort and Stuart Norman. It was my first live show, so it was all new to me, but it was definitely fun. The episode just went live this morning, so I haven't seen the recording yet, but I'll link to it in the show notes for you if you're interested. And for the last few days, I've been working really hard on something super fun that I hope to be able to announce in next week's show, so look out for that. Okay, on to this week's quote. It's from Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert's moving manifesto about the idea of living creatively. She says, "I'm talking about living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear." Does that sound familiar? For parents, the process of moving to unschooling is so often about working through our fears of going against the grain as we dive deep into the conventional wisdom of learning, parenting, and living and find it lacking. And in those depths, we unearth a much more basic and human motivator, curiosity. Choosing not to follow the strict and generalized learning path of curriculum, we take care to nurture our children's curiosity. What fascinates them? What do they have fun doing? What questions are they asking? Actively engaging with their curiosity creates a personalized and in-depth learning path. Earlier this month, I was writing a chapter about creativity in my next book, and it is amazing how curiosity, learning, and creativity are so intricately woven together. I'm really excited to share that book with you in a few months. So, this week, try paying extra attention to your child and notice where their curiosity is leading them. Are they digging deeper and deeper into one thing, or going wide and checking out lots of things? Can you find a thread that connects some of those things together? That might be a clue to the root of their curiosity. Can you find something to bring to their attention that might help that curiosity burn a bit brighter? And I'd love to hear what you discover. Head on over to livingjoyfully.ca/podcast and share in the comments for episode 4. Now, on to the questions. Hi everyone, I'm Pamela Riccia from livingjoyfully.ca, and today I'm here with Ohman and Anna Brown. Hi guys.
Hello.
I'm very excited that Ann and Anna are going to join me today to answer listener questions. But first, I wanted to take a moment for the 2 of them to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about their unschooling experience. Why don't you go first, Ann?
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad.
I have 2 grown sons, Jacob and Sam. Jacob is 25, Sam is 21. They have always been radically unschooled. And that is because when Jacob was born, I felt immediately that he was here to show me things and I was here to follow him. And it was his kind of wonderfully obstinate refusal to be taught anything or to have any part of his mind or spirit be, hijacked by other people or what they thought he should be doing or learning or who he should be, that resonated deeply with the truth within myself also. And we didn't even know unschooling existed back then when I just chose to follow him. And it wasn't until he was about 7 and Sam was 4 when the internet came into our lives and I realized that other people were living this life and it's called unschooling. And in between there, I found John Holt's book also, and that helped me also to follow Jacob and his joy. And probably more important than his joy was following his peace. So that's where we started, and we've been doing it ever since.
That's lovely. You want to take a turn, Anna?
Hi, so thanks for having me. Also, I am Anna Brown, and I live in North Carolina with my husband David and our two girls, Afton and Raylan, who are now 18 and 16. We have also always unschooled, and John Holt was a part of our journey early on too. I read his book, Learning All the Time, and it really helped me to just watch Afton and see all that she was doing, because pretty early on you could tell that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And just watching her explore the world and dig deep into all the things she loved just really naturally led us to unschooling. And then when Raylan came along a couple of years later, she just fell right into that routine. So it's just been a wonderful journey as we've shared this life together, all four of us exploring what we love and the world around us and connecting with other unschoolers. So it's been great.
Yay! And I'm sure we'll get to know a lot more about your stories as we dive into these questions. So let's get to the first one. How do people successfully unschool older kids when there are babies or toddlers in the house that restrict the opportunities for the older one? For instance, I can hardly read to my 5-year-old because my 2-year-old constantly interferes. So you want to start, Anna?
Sure. Thinking back, because my kids were close in age, so we had a little bit of this, but for me, it was kind of just going with the ebb and flow of our day and also looking for opportunities for parallel play. And, we'd find toddler activities that would work for one if the other one wanted some quiet time reading. So we might have sandbox or the big box with beans we had inside that was fun for scooping and dumping that would entertain, my younger one while I could read with Afton. We'd also go outside a lot because that would allow people to kind of wander and do what they want or stay close if they want. And it's more of a calming energy. And we utilize nap times and different bedtimes that we had, and also just, tag teaming with other moms and with David to just give me one-on-one time. But really it was more just connecting and being aware of the ebb and flow through the day and not having an attachment to it having to look a certain way or that it had to happen in a certain way. We found that there was lots of opportunities for everybody to get their needs met.
Yeah, I found one of the things that we did quite a bit was you can also talk to the older kids, like you were saying, connecting and going with the flow and just finding out getting their input as well, finding out what they think might work, like knowing that the younger kids are around during this time. What are some of the things that, we can enjoy doing while the younger kids are here? And then, getting their involvement so that, and then the moments when the younger kids are napping or busy with maybe another parent or another adult around, you can kind of play with the timing with them, because that helps them understand too and see what the environment is around them as well.
Right.
Even at 5 and 6.
For me, I would like to dive in and restructure the question. Just because I feel like it's so important to be mindful of the words we're using, even when we have questions and when we have problems and everything, but still the words we're using to describe or tell the story of our lives. And I have found that simply changing the words to this particular question allows for a pivot in the perspective and possibilities to open up. So if, we look at the words successfully unschool and the words restrict and interferes are not allowing possibilities to, I understand why somebody would feel limited when those are the words that you're coming to. So, for me, I would, think about what is unschooling. It's connection with our children. It's celebrating our children and honoring our children for being who they are. And it's trusting in them and in the paths of their lives. So the question really is, how can I connect with my children? I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and obviously they have different needs and interests. So even just switching it from, those other words to that, I feel uplifted, like so many possibilities can open up just from that instead of, focusing on the other things. And I think that's important because, like, anybody can offer suggestions, but we know our children best. So to frame our questions in that way that allows possibilities to flow is just really, really important to me. And also involving the children in coming up with solutions where we're not viewing them as the problem. You know what I mean? We're not saying we have this problem, we have this problem. We're saying, I want to connect. I want to connect with you, and I want to connect with your sibling too. How can we solve that? Then that invites the kids in, even on a deeper level, to help you solve things also, instead of, just feeling negative about it. And
that's a great point, because one of the things I was going to also add, because just looking at it from that perspective, you're looking for the flow right then and there and in the moment. And I found when I found myself getting most frustrated with getting pulled in different directions, it was when I was trying to direct things,
right.
when I was looking at things only from my own perspective, right? And I wanted things to go my way, the way I thought. Even though I was trying to look through their eyes, I was still seeing it from my perspective.
Right. And for me, even with just two kids, I felt torn when they both needed me, in that moment and everything. And that's our own agenda also. That's our own desire to please everybody. And to just step out of your frustration and, that story of frustration to, a higher level of how can I connect, that really just opens it up for me personally and allows possibilities to flow.
I think so too, because I feel like that, especially with some of the wording with the successful unschooling, that's pretty agenda driven. So it's like, let that piece go. Right. Let that piece go, because if we can get to that foundation of connection, if that's the first and foremost, and that's really what we saw. It was like, how can we connect in this moment? How can we, meet these needs? And it really, it flows and takes care of itself versus coming in with, it needs to look like this. I want it to look like this. This is what it's supposed to look like.
It's not a pass-fail situation.
Right.
It's and that's when you stop and think about what unschooling is. It's connection and trust. So that's really cool.
It also helps to remember that things change over time.
Exactly.
When you feel stuck in a moment, a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, things are going to be different. So when you're always looking for that connection, that helps you move through those times rather than feeling stuck.
Definitely.
Okay. Let's look at this next question. I think it's similar in that it deals with multiple children, but it's from a bit different perspective. And how does unschooling work with 3 young children? Now, I think you can take that, everything that we said with the first question, and bring it in. But I'm going to go first here.
Yay.
I just what jumped out at me first was that if you've got young children, sometimes, when we were talking in the first question about the pressure of successfully unschooling, the pressure we can feel if we try to even label things as unschooling, if the kids are younger than school age. At that point, really what we're doing is parenting. So if thinking of it as unschooling is making you feel some pressure that you have to do this or that or the other thing, it may help to just remember that you're parenting with them and connecting with them.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like people discount regular life as part of a learning experience, because every family has their own set of circumstances. Every family is dealing with something that could cause stress if you're feeling like you have to be a successful unschooling parent all the time. So, and yet simply by living our lives together and having discussions and, shifting our perspective and talking about that. And there's so much in action that they're absorbing every second. And hopefully from the parent, that's respect and, celebration and cooperation, discussion, and all this stuff. And that's life, and unschooling is life. And it has way more value than anything in a classroom, in my opinion.
Right. And I guess that's what I wanted to say about this one too, is that basically unschooling is living our life. And I think because the three of us have these grown children, we can say resoundingly that every day, every experience, there's learning in all of that. And it never looked like one specific thing. And so it's just trusting that as life unfolds, you're learning what you need to know and you're asking the questions. And if you have, engaged people that are talking and answering questions and looking things up and figuring things out, all of that just takes care of itself as you're exploring the world and just living your life.
That's right. And it's literally learning all the time. John Holt's title of John Holt's book, and people might hear that and think, oh, wow, they're learning, they're learning math all the time. No, we're absorbing, they are absorbing all that we are doing. And I just spent, a couple days with Sam, my 21-year-old, and I see it still happening with him because he knows how to be a lifelong learner. He knows how to look at situations and learn and move forward. And it's just incredible to me to be a witness to all of these years and have it still going on.
That's a great point because, I've talked about before about how you don't even notice the transition, when you start unschooling, if you, as you guys did, went straight from, didn't go to school at all.
Right.
And that transition is like seamless. You can say, okay, they weren't school age, so I'm not unschooling, and now they are, but days look the same. And I found that's exactly the same now that my kids are 18, 21, and 23. Our days still look the same as they did when they were teenagers and even children, just because you're just living your days and following your interests and just learning in every single moment.
Mm-hmm. You're evolving together in this space of, deep friendship and respect. And that's just the most beautiful thing. And I know so many people who, wish their kids were toddlers and little again. And I've never been in that space. I've always just loved who my kids are at any stage along the way because of this life we've built together of, just evolving together.
I definitely, that's been our experience too. And I think it is, what I love about it is for us, there's four of us, it's just each one of us learning from the other. It isn't this top down, it isn't this agenda. It's just we each learn from each of our experiences and our passions and our heartache and our everything that's involved. And that's just like that's it. That's life. That's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another good piece, which I'm sure we'll get into lots of times. But you learn from every experience. This is life.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get through those hard moments so that you can start living and learning again. No, You're living and learning in all of those moments. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. This one says, I feel so much pressure and guilt knowing that family and friends would not understand unschooling. So I hide it by saying we homeschool when I'm asked. Is that okay? I feel so guilty, and then that guilt turns into doubt whether I'm doing the right thing, yet deep inside I know that I am. How do I deal with this constant back and forth internal struggle? So why don't you start this one, Anne?
I love this question. It starts out, I feel so much pressure and guilt. Oh my goodness. There's one thing I could wish to remove from everyone's lives. It's feeling bad about themselves for anything. And it's a direction I follow. I've always followed for my kids, helping them to feel good about themselves, no matter what has happened. And it's something that we adults really need to give to ourselves. And we have a hard time getting there sometimes. In our family, we've always done what we feel we need to do to keep our unschooling lives free from negativity. And I have never owned any guilt about it at all. And it goes back to, again, the energy in which we're living, the energy we're conveying, and the energy we're carrying. If we feel guilt and pressure because we don't want to say we unschool, then that leaves huge openings and gaps for people to swarm in and tell us what we should be doing and what we're doing wrong and everything. And of course, when people do that, then we start to doubt ourselves. And even if you're not at a place where you're 100% confident in unschooling, because the tapes in your head from society are still so strong that you can't get away from them, I still feel like we can act as if and trust that all is well. And this is a really beneficial tool to use because it helps us also to trust in our children. So going back to the thing, it's okay to say that you homeschool around those whom you feel would not understand or question it or, make you feel bad about it. And then you just kind of joke about it with your kids. That's what we kind of always did. And also, what I would feel in some people was that you kind of feel out if you can say unschool or homeschool. And when I would feel sometimes that it was okay to say unschool, I would almost also feel that they might need to hear that word too. So it's just a matter of listening to your instinct and going with it and not feeling bad about it at all, because you're just, again, living your life, doing what you can to live your life freely without other people's negativity coming into your space.
And for me, sorry, Pam, do you want to go ahead?
No, that's fine.
Okay. I found that people really take their cue from me. So it's similar to what Anne's saying. It's about that energy. And I find if I'm sharing the joy and the wonder of our lives, that's what they see and can get excited about. I don't feel the need to really define what we're doing to everyone in a specific way, but I talk about what we love and new adventures and even, the quiet days at home. And I really just find, again, my energy kind of sets the tone. Mm-hmm. I'll also say if something feels like a struggle, I personally would probably examine that a little bit. That might be a red flag for me to dig deeper. Am I feeling uncomfortable about something? What's happening? Because for me, I find it's rarely about the other person. It's usually about something, those tapes are in my head. So can I figure out those tapes or what self-talk's happening and straighten that out? And then usually the rest will take care of itself. But, that way, if I can get my energy in the place I want it to be, then that's what the rest of the world sees and gets excited about.
Yeah, I think this ties both of those things together really nicely. Because I came to it a bit later too. My kids were in school, so I was deep into that environment. And there was not one person in my life who had ever heard of homeschooling when I heard of it and started doing it. So yeah, that part, I think it was you, Anne, that mentioned about not leaving openings for them,
right.
And and then Anna, you talked about it being your work to do often when you find a conflict there. So I found, when I look back now, I realized that in our first few months, at least probably the first year after they left school, I ended up, we as a family ended up really cocooning a lot. I actively did the work to shift away from needing my family's approval or even agreement in what we were doing. But because I wasn't yet ready and confident to speak to that or a way to approach it, and because I was doing all my work, I was deschooling, I was trying to figure out what I really felt about it. We were just busy. Often, if it was, come over for dinner, and I wasn't comfortable with that, or the kids didn't enjoy that, if the kids felt, they were being questioned or whatever, so a lot of times we just didn't go to those things for the first year or so, and we cocooned and the kids played to their heart's content, and I watched them and I learned more about unschooling, and by the time we were ready to connect more, I was in a much better place. And I found the same things that you guys were talking about when we were together with extended family. I didn't really call it unschooling for a long time either. It was just homeschooling. But it was about sharing the joy. not giving them an opportunity to question. Because if I had a question, my family wasn't the ones I
Right.
wanted to ask because they knew nothing,
Exactly.
right? I'm not going to ask their advice. I'm not even going to ask their parenting advice because I'm looking for parenting that supports the unschooling lifestyle that I'm trying to create. So they're not the ones to ask. I'm going to go and ask, on unschooling groups or other unschoolers maybe that you have living around you if you're that lucky.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was a huge piece for me was giving myself the time and our family the time to adjust and shift and do that work. And then when we did meet with family more often, to share the positives and the joys and to share my kids' excitement and joy in what the things that they were doing and not leave openings for them to start questioning and certainly not asking for their advice because then you're asking them to try and judge you right there when you're asking for their help.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we would even, when we did go to family gatherings, you get the standard school questions, and
Mhm.
my kids never fit into those categories, of course. So we would literally take joy cheat sheets with us.
Yeah.
I'd have it at the dinner table, and when the conversation started going to someplace else where we didn't fit into, we'd pull it out, and I'd have topics written down of things that my kids have been doing that they love. Any one of them, if you spoke of it, one of my kids would light up, and that's what we wanted to share. My
Right.
kids shine, and have everybody witness that shine when talking about this. And it was always something that everybody could join in on, because it's an interest of many people's. It's not school thing where it's the cut and dry
Right.
conversation. It's I started woodworking. Oh, grandpa knows a lot about that, and stuff like that.
And something I've seen with maybe with newer unschoolers too is they take those questions that maybe what grade are you in or what are you studying at school as an attack or as something that's specifically directed at them. And honestly, it's just a lot of adults don't know how to interact with children. And so I was able to show them how we can talk about our interests by talking about their interests as an adult, just like I would talk about my kids' interests. And so I think if we can just kind of give people that template of how can we relate to each other as human beings that are enjoying this life, it helps. It doesn't often have this negative agenda. It's just really all that they know.
That's true. That those are just the typical questions that
Right.
they're used to asking. They're used to asking. I know I used to have so much fun, asking my sisters-in-law and stuff. So what have you been doing lately? What are you interested in? That could it would really stop them up because that's not the kind of questions that they're used to getting
Right.
or discussing, right? So that helped along the way. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. I'd love to hear about games that have provided family fun. Any kind of game, board games, computer games, waiting games, word games, etc. You want to start with that one, Anna?
Sure. We love games. Oh my goodness. We always play games. I guess I'll just list off some of our favorites, but we can kind of go around and then talk. But we do a lot of
Yeah.
card games because that's something we did with my family of origin. So canasta, hand and foot, Skippo, Uno, those type of things. One of our current favorites is a tile game called Rummy Cube, which is a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And when the girls were younger, though, we enjoyed more computer games. Zoombinis was a really fun one that's kind of coming back, now that you can get it on Android tabs and iPads and that kind of thing. But also, we as a family loved Animal Crossing, Mario Karts, those kind of games, and had so much fun. And well, both of you know, endless hours of Animal Crossing. And honestly, it was so hard for me to let that go. I probably shouldn't even talk about it because I may start thinking about my hybrids if I if we go there. But oh my gosh, so much fun. And really one of the things that really both the girls started reading because of that, because it was like we just wanted to play together and do, and they were tired of me having to read for them. But we've liked the standards too: Yahtzee, Clue, Trouble, those kind of things. Blockus. Pig Pile was a big favorite. Blink, it's kind of they're both kind of card games, and so we just again we love any kind of games. Whatever I see, an unschooling list or even anyone talk about a new favorite game, I'm Googling. I think you put one on Instagram recently, Pam, and I'm like Googling to see what that's all about.
I'm going to mention that.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, I'll go next then. That one, that was Hanabi. That is a super fun game. I like to, even, the kids are older now, obviously, but I try to get some totally new game that we haven't heard of each Christmas.
Oh, fun.
Just to have around because Lissy lives in New York City now, and, she's home for the holidays. And so Hanabi was one that I had seen, I think it was probably in the summer, some good reviews I'd happened upon and got it. But it's a cooperative game. What's super fun is, I'll just take 2 seconds. It's a tile-based game. I think there's a card version, but we have the tile-based one. And you have your tiles, but your tiles are facing out. So you can't see your own tiles, but you see everybody else's.
Oh, interesting.
So you're giving clues, trying to give clues to the other players on which tiles to lay to successfully pull off this fireworks show.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, now say that. I did see that at Target. I almost got that one too.
No, it is lots of fun. Another one we've had lots of fun with lately is Flux. We have the card game. Somebody gave us the board game version last week, so we haven't tried that out yet, but that'll be soon. We got the original Flux game. I think that's what I got last Christmas. It was, and so we played that tons. And then this Christmas in their stockings, I put new versions. Like there's a zombie version, and there's a star version, which is like Star Wars and Star Trek references and stuff, and an Oz version. And what was super cool is that it's not that you just have like different pictures and different words to describe the same thing. The games change drastically between the zombie version and the Oz version and everything. So it's really cool the way they did that. So we've had fun picking which one we're in the mood for to play. When we were on vacation last fall, we went to LA, and Lissy taught us a word game called Contact. I will put a link in the show notes to some directions for it. And so we ended up playing that, when we were waiting in lines, when we were driving around. And that was a word game that was super, super fun. I was going to mention Zubinis, which you did. It's available all over the place now on Steam. And Michael has spent a lot of time, has really enjoyed, like over the last year, Kerbal Space Program. So that is super cool too. For me, if I can ever, now I can't remember the name of it. That's one I can't, I try to find somebody else. I end up playing it on the computer with myself because nobody else is interested in it, which is fine. Somebody just told me about that 2048 game. So I've been trying that out. And whenever I need just personally, whenever I want like a little reset, like I just need 2 minutes of quiet and to myself, I just pull out Sudoku on my phone. And I always play it. Somebody asked me, why do you always play easy? Try harder. So like, no, I play easy because I know the game will only be 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
And then I just basically kind of race myself when I feel like it. So that's always fun. What about you, Anne?
Well, my reset game is Bejeweled. It's 1 minute.
Oh, you beat me.
But it's 1 minute if I don't care about being the high score, which I always do, so I keep going. But a new game that Sam and I have just discovered, and let me tell you the benefits of your 21-year-old being in pain from a kidney stone is that you get to hang out with him.
Thank goodness there's a benefit.
And you get to play bounce off as much as you want. It's a tray and kind of like ping pong balls that you bounce on the table into the tray, and you try to recreate a pattern from the card that you drew. And it's so much fun. Any age can do it. And first, when I bought it, I thought, oh my God, ping pong balls are going to be flying all over the place. But it's not. It's much more in control than I thought it would be. And we're playing and playing. We just have so much fun. And I actually went and found like Bounce Off Max or Super or something. So we just got that yesterday, which is another level of it, which I didn't like as much because Sam kept winning, where I kept winning the first version. So. But that is a really fantastic game that we love. We love Quirkle. We love good old dominoes. And my family and I have spent so many happy years playing Rock Band together. And even now, when we hear a song that was, a classic rock band song, we just look at each other and smile and say, Rock Band song, because we have such happy connecting memories of that joy. And I have a hard time not buying it again and starting it all over again, even though we all have jobs now. And it was much more fun when we didn't all have jobs. Settlers of Catan is one that we absolutely love with my kids being older. And Tokaido, I do the same thing at Christmas, Pam. I try to get a game nobody's ever heard of. And my last success was Tokaido. Really wonderful thing. It's basically anything your kids are drawn to. I would recommend go toward that and then take their little interests and go to the Amazon thing where, you might like this, you might like this. And you find all kinds of treasures, and you can tell by the reviews if it's your kind of people, you know what I mean? That like obscure games and everything. So that's what I always try and find. But I love following the rabbit trail of games to surprise my kids and following their passion toward whatever they are interested in.
Well, that's it about the path, right? You just keep going and going until something connects, which that's it. I think that will light them up. That's going to be super fun.
And that's how Pokemon started. I mean, Jacob being drawn to creatures as kind of with his artist brain from the time he was a child. We were someplace and there was pictures of Pokemon. And we were like, what's that? And I noticed next time he was with a friend who had an old-fashioned Game Boy, and Jacob would get really excited watching him play his Pokemon game. So I got it for Christmas for them, way back years ago when they didn't even know about it or ask for it. And now it's, Jacob's entire life. Pokemon still at age 25. So, you just know your kids and you follow their little things that, it just leads you to the right path all the time when you hold who your kids are in your heart, when you're looking out into the world. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And taking the time to, appreciate it with them. Because when you were talking about Rock Band, that just reminded me that our family video game has been Mario Party for years and years, right? So whenever we're all here or somebody's over to visit, whatever, that's the game that comes out. We've already played it here, a couple of games this season, this vacation as well. If you just open yourself up to the experience,
Exactly.
Just be open to it and have fun with it. Just, watch your kids. Even if it doesn't matter if you're good at it. My kids, it's the greatest time was when one of the mini games came up and the goal of the mini game was to be the first one to lose.
Yeah.
Because I won that one. I actually won a figure.
Right. Well, that's it. And the kids are so fair. I mean, they're like, oh, Mom, you should be this character because, you don't need to do as much as this one and everything. And
right.
It's just so joyful.
Yeah, as long as you let yourself be open to the experience and, not worry about, having to win or having to be the adult or anything like that. You're on the same level with them and everybody's just having fun together and supporting each other. That's why games have, been such a nice family thing for us over the years.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, let's look. Oh, yeah, I think that's it for today. First off, I wanted to thank you both very much. I really appreciated you joining me today. I had tons of fun answering questions with you. Before we sign off, I just wanted each of you to have a moment to let people know where they can find you online. You want to start, Anne?
I'm not online anywhere really. Well, I don't have a website, but I did start the Shine with Unschooling Yahoo list in 2004. And that is a wonderful unschooling space to celebrate our children. And it's a nice, respectful space. It's a very wonderful community. And Shine with Unschooling also has a Facebook page, and a lot of people tend to interact there in the comments of things I post and everything, and that's really fun. I also have some exciting upcoming events happening, and you can check Pam's site for that because I'll be doing one with her soon.
And Anna?
Again, I'm not hugely online, but I do have choosingconnection.com, which has some old writings and musings just about this unschooling journey and choosing connection with the people in our lives. And you will find me on Anne's Shine list. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I will have links to all that stuff in the show notes, so people will be able to find you there. And I just want to let people know, remember that if you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of these Q&A episodes, I think we'll be having them monthly, just head on over to livingjoyfully.ca/podcast and send your question in. And thanks, everyone. Talk to you later and have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. You might also like the backlist episodes at livingjoyfully.ca/podcast. You can also get your free Exploring Unschooling ebook at livingjoyfully.ca/exploring unschooling. If you'd like to connect, you can also find me on Facebook at Living Joyfully. Until next time, have fun living and learning with your family.